I made a film about the terrific realist painter Chris Feiro back when he had a show at Philadelphia's Rosenfeld Gallery in 2012. He has another show up there now, and so I asked him what's new in his work and life since then.
Since my last show, probably the biggest change was having the opportunity to take on some of these larger scale cityscapes. It's something I had sort of kicked around the idea of doing for quite a while and just wasn't quite sure of how to approach it, if I was capable of taking something like this on, but finally just stretched a canvas and went for it. So started with this larger one here that's in the center of the gallery, worked on that painting during the summer, wanted to continue with this theme of larger scale cityscapes, and began the one that's at the other part of the gallery, the square format one. Worked on that during the winter. The work is from direct observation. I work that way more than anything just to connect to my surroundings. The views that you see in these cityscapes are views that I saw from my studio windows. In many ways, for me, they're very ordinary types of views. I teach at the Community College of Philadelphia, and I had a sabbatical for the fall semester of last school year. And so I was able to return back to northern Minnesota, where I'm from originally, and did a lot of these smaller scale, most of the time 1 to 2 sitting paintings of trees, and I think there's one beach view from that body of work as well. So things from my everyday life. So artists that have inspired me, artists who work from observation in some manner. People like Giacometti, Ewan Uglow, Antonio Lopez Garcia, William Coldstream. A lot of artists that seem to have measurement as a major part of their process.
Compositionally, there's a real classical quality to these in terms of the symmetry. Is that something you think about?
I think I'm always looking for a balanced composition. A lot of the symmetry comes out of the measurement process, so I'll start by locating the center of my vision, and then we'll typically measure out from that point in a fairly symmetrical way. In terms of process, medium's very simple, just a little bit of stand oil, a little Damar, and a fair amount of turpentine. Yeah. I typically start by doing a very general underdrawing with yellow ochre, and from there just go at things very directly. So large brush, palette knife, and then as the painting progresses, become more and more specific about what I'm seeing.
The incredible detail in some of your interiors with the stacked plates, what draws you to that level of detail?
I'm not any more drawn to that level of detail than I am the large relationships. And in fact, there's a lot of editing that goes on. There are certain levels of detail that begin to compete with those larger relationships that I established early on in the painting. So detail needs to add to the painting. It can't take away from those larger relationships. I get basically the same feeling from the drawings that I do the paintings. There's really very little difference for me. The process is very similar. I feel like the paintings allow you to investigate certain things that the drawings won't allow, and vice versa. There's certain things you can investigate, or I feel I can investigate better in a drawing than a painting.
Have you ever been threatened by a daddy long legs when you're working on one of those basement drawings?
Never threatened by a daddy long legs.
Okay, well that's good to know. There aren't a lot of artists that paint water heaters. What made you decide to do that?
That water heater was in, I believe it's 3 drawings. And the more I drew it, the more I became interested in the colors. So there's an example of you could explore something in a painting that isn't possible in a drawing. So it was really more than anything about the color, this kind of murky quality of light, the red boiler emerging out of the darkness. So it really came out of that experience of just looking at the thing over and over again.
It's also gratifying to see that you use those newfangled light bulbs.
They're great forms for painting.
Chris Feiro is very much a part of a community of artists in Philadelphia and around the country who believe in the value of painting from direct observation. Many artists and art lovers had shown up both at his 2012 opening and now again in 2015. But there was this one very intense art fan who I can't recall seeing 3 years ago. Chris, it seems to me that there's an even bigger change that occurred in your life.
Yeah, my wife and I had a daughter 2.5 years ago. So that's definitely a big change, a great change. Our daughter Anna is the best thing that's happened to both of us. So yeah, it's a nice change.